Hello everyone and welcome to today's video, where we will be discussing the British expansion in India. The colonization of India by the British Empire is a significant event in the history of India, as well as the world. The British rule in India lasted for almost 200 years and had a profound impact on the social, economic and political landscape of the country. Part 1. The arrival of the British East India Company. The British East India Company, a trading company, first arrived in India in the early 17th century. Initially, the company was only interested in trading goods such as spices, tea and textiles. However, over time, the company started to gain political power and influence in India. Part 2. The Battle of Plassey. One of the significant events that marked the beginning of British expansion in India was the Battle of Plassey in 1757. The battle was fought between the British East India Company and the Nawab of Bengal. The British East India Company emerged victorious, and this victory paved the way for the company to expand its territorial influence in India. Part 3. The Doctrine of Lapse. The Doctrine of Lapse was a policy introduced by Lord Dalhousie, the Governor-General of India in 1848. The policy stated that if a ruler of an Indian state died without a male heir, the state would be annexed by the British East India Company. This policy led to the annexation of several Indian states, and the British Empire's territorial influence in India grew significantly. Part 4. Indian Rebellion of 1857. The Indian Rebellion of 1857, also known as the Indian Mutiny or the First War of Independence, was a significant event in the history of British expansion in India. The rebellion was a result of Indian soldiers and civilians' discontent with the British rule in India. The rebellion was eventually crushed by the British, and India came under direct British rule. Part 5. Impact of British rule in India. The British rule in India had a significant impact on the country's social, economic and political landscape. The British introduced modern infrastructure such as railways, telegraph lines and postal services, which helped in the country's development. However, the British also exploited India's resources and people, which had a long-lasting impact on the country's economy and society. Part 6. Indian Independence Movement. The British rule in India sparked a movement for independence led by Indian nationalist leaders such as Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, and Subhas Chandra Bose. The movement gained momentum in the early 20th century, and after decades of struggle and resistance, India finally gained independence from British rule in 1947. Part 7. Partition of India. The partition of India was a significant consequence of British rule in India. The British Empire divided the country into two separate nations, India and Pakistan, based on religious lines. The partition led to the largest mass migration in human history, with millions of people displaced and killed in communal violence. Part 8. Legacy of British rule in India. The legacy of British rule in India is a topic of debate among historians and scholars. On one hand, the British introduced modern infrastructure and institutions that helped in the country's development. On the other hand, the British also exploited India's resources and people, causing significant harm to the country's economy and society. Conclusion. The British expansion in India is a complex and multifaceted topic. It is a story of trade, politics, power, exploitation, and resistance. The legacy of British rule in India is still felt today, and it continues to shape the country's social, economic, and political landscape. By understanding the history of British expansion in India, we can better appreciate the challenges and opportunities that the country faces today. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you found it informative and engaging.